Men Digging Holes in Their Backyards by Timmy. Signs of Warning. Men digging holes in their backyards can be scary, and if you are scared of these men, you should not be ashamed. You are right to be cautious. When a man is spotted digging a hole in his backyard, you should be prepared to dig a hole in your own backyard. As a rule, men digging holes in their backyards are asserting power through the construction of a monument such as a swimming pool or gazebo, or are hiding something, a bit of evidence from the last time their power was asserted, perhaps. A deceased mistress, a microwaved pet, a refused wedding ring. Either way, they are to be avoided. If all the men in your neighborhood have begun digging holes at the same time, you should make urgent plans to move residents. You should be prepared to live under a bridge for some time. The role of sweat. Sweat plays a critical alchemical role in the ritual of men digging holes in their backyards. Sweat mixes with the wood or composite plastic of the shovel handle and the leather blend of the work gloves. Sweat drips into the dirt. The dirt responds accordingly by shifting and sinking away from the man who is the source of the sweat. This shifting is what moves the earth in circles. As dangerous as men digging holes in their backyards can be, they also serve to make the world oblivious to the fact that it is dizzy. Women. Women put up with the men that dig holes, and often they dig holes of their own. In fact, women digging holes in their backyards are nearly identical in every way, which is why they are able to mate successfully and produce offspring. I only refer to men in a generic way in this document because that is traditionally what the backyard hole diggers have been called, although I concede it is not the most accurate term. Most humans are capable of digging holes in their backyards, and many do, regardless of the shape of their genitals. Tools. A variety of tools are used for the digging that is done by men and women in their backyards because it is such a complicated business. Some of these tools include shovels, hoes, rakes, trowels, buckets, sticks, spoons, bulldozers, tractors, plows, pigs in search of truffles, which we'll get into later, axes, slaves, and even their own fingers. Grass. To the ears of the men digging, the grass does not scream when they cut it. The crickets, who are wardens of the grass, along with rabbits and snakes, hear them, though, millions of tiny voices screaming. The cricket rubs his wings together to drown out the sound. Sex. A. Occasionally a hole is dug for the purpose of becoming a setting for sexual intercourse. This is very rare and most often happens at beaches. Death. A. Death is often accompanied by a hole, usually at a cemetery. A cemetery is not a backyard. A cemetery is the house itself. Blisters. Blisters form on the hands of the men who dig too much. Calluses. Calluses form on the hands of the men who dig so much they feel nothing. Childhood. Children are small, underdeveloped men. Despite their lack of maturity, they are avid hole diggers, and even have boxes made of sand in which to practice their digging. Sex. B. Sexual intercourse is a form of digging. Swimming pools. Swimming pools are backyard holes filled in with a layer of concrete, usually white, and then filled in with another layer of water and chemicals. Humans swim in the water and chemicals and often create a temporary layer of plastic and air on which to rest a final layer consisting of themselves and maybe a drink. Death. B. Holes are often dug in backyards by men for the purpose of interring a recently deceased domestic animal. These holes are sometimes marked with a small monument, as is the custom for humans buried in cemeteries. Humans buried in backyards do not usually have markers. War. War is a time when some men dig holes for protection. This was particularly popular during a conflict known as the First World War, which was not, as the name suggests, a war between separate worlds, but rather a war between several of the wealthier nations claiming territory on just one world. These holes were long hallways called trenches, and some likely did cut through multiple backyards. Truffles. Truffles are a delicious fungus found in very few places, mostly not backyards, but enjoyed all over the world as a delicacy. A delicacy is something special that tastes good. Truffles live underground waiting for holes to be dug down to them so they can be picked and eaten. Pigs, as mentioned earlier, are the preferred method of finding and digging for truffles. The pig uses his nose, or snout, as a tool for the dig. Truffles are usually then shaved onto human food or infused in oil. The future. The future involves more holes than any could anticipate. The past. The past can be discovered, measured, and tracked by the digging of holes. When you dig a hole, you are digging into the past. The present. I have been digging a tiny hole every day for the last 10 years, with a thimble. The hole is located just over the property line, in my neighbor's backyard. He hasn't noticed yet. In the Land of the Lawnmowers by Timmy Reed. We did what little occurred to us. The old woman with bones in her yard lived at the end of the lane where she fed leftovers to animals and stray children. Everyone in our neighborhood possessed this quiet knowledge. She was the oldest and would be the first to die unless a tragedy intervened. When we spoke of rising property values, future prospects, we never mentioned her name, but all of us were thinking it. Remember to say thank you, we told our children, feeling guilty. Leave nice words on her doorstep. In secret, we knew we were instructing babies to pet a dying dog. The scent of time passing. As time clicked on, each of us gathered dust, oil, salt, grime on our skins that was evidence we were still alive and had been for long enough to make a mess of ourselves. The passing of time was personal, so we each carried our own scent. My scent smelled like a birthday cake with a sad secret written in pink icing. Nobody ever asked to be alive. Our lives were not something we had requested. Each life was a surprise present. The way we lived our lives was the reaction on our faces when we opened them in front of everybody. I don't know anything you don't know. I have just decided to write it down. We peeled life away from the death inside and ate it. Our lives were like onions, layer folded over layer of white porous meat that induced tears. We peeled them to find the hollow area inside. We named the hollow area death. The signs. The street signs in our neighborhood were illegible, but it did not matter because nobody tried to read them anyway. We all knew where we were. We felt like we'd been there forever. The uncertainty that passes between celebrations. Every holiday was an orgy in a graveyard. We prayed to each other by the light of melting candles. They dripped and covered the tombstones like wrinkled cocoons. On the other days of the year, the inside of each mouth remained a mystery to every other mouth. The rest of our bodies were always a mystery, even to ourselves. Timmy Reed is from Baltimore, Maryland. He has recently published or has work forthcoming from a number of places, including Akashic Books, Volume 1, Brooklyn, Everyday Genius, Necessary Fiction, and Atticus Review. He edits the What Lit section of What Weekly magazine and recently published a collection of stories, Tell God I Don't Exist. Learn more at underratedανimals.wordpress.com. These pieces were originally published by Grain Ghost Press and Alice Blue Review.